So dear respected teacher, dear beloved Thai, and dear beloved community, good morning. So today we are the Wednesday, July the 11th, the year 2018, and we are in Upper Hamlet, the Dharma Cloud Temple in the Still Water Meditation Hall. And today we have a session of question and answer. A lot of us, we love to listen to the question and answer session. So today it's a great opportunity for you to come up here and ask a question. And you can ask a question in any language that you speak. French, Chinese, Italian, Japanese, German, whatever language you, English, you wish to ask your question. And so a good question doesn't need to be long, and please ask a question from your heart, and a question that is within you, and you would like to maybe have a different perspective, or to be able to look at your question. Maybe you're stuck with your question, and we will try to offer you a different way of looking at your question. So it can be a question about your practice, your difficulty, your relationship, or your joy, something that is relevant. And a good question will help many people. So don't hesitate to come and ask your question. We will take a written question as well. So if you're too shy to come forward, you can write the question and pass it to us. So what we will do is the children, we have the opportunity to ask a question. And as there is many people, we will take only 4 questions from the children, no more than 4. And then the teenagers, if they wish to ask a question, I don't know if they are here this morning, the teen, but if there is some teen, they can ask question, and then young adult, and then the adult. So we will try to offer a short question, and we will offer only one of us will answer your question, so we can take more questions this morning. And we have up to what time? 11 o'clock? So we have about an hour and 20 minutes, something like that. So please come forward. And here I think there is a translation. So if you need to have translation here, you can put the earphone. So please come up, the children. And then one thing I forgot to. No, we thought you were coming for the question. No. Okay, and before you ask the question, we will listen to one sound of the bell. So we can all come back to our breathing. So if there is any children who would like to ask a question.
Why the people can't stop wars?
So the question is, why the people cannot stop war?
Good morning, dear Sangha. That is a very, very great question. It's a question for all of us, not just for the young adults, but also for the adults ourselves. Why is it we cannot stop war? In our heart, we do not want war. We always want peace. In our family, in our homes, in our countries, we always want the best for those that surround us, because those are the ones we care for, and we always want to protect them. Yet, we always end up going to war. Why is that? From my perspective, it's fear. Fear is the seed of war. We fear for our safety. We want to protect our family. So, in order to do so, we go to war. We prevent others from coming in. Sometimes even before they wanted to attack us, we already attacked them. We can see very simply when we have seen mosquitoes in the summer, you see many that come to you. A lot of us, our first reaction is to kill it right away because we're fearful of it. We're fearful that it might bite us. So that seed of fear is the one that hidden underneath the reason why we are act as a violent person, act as a violent country, and to attack. That is one part. The other part is greed. It's also in protection of our economy. We want to stay strong, powerful, and so we consume a lot. And in order to consume, we need more resources. In order to get them, we have to go to war to generate them. So for us, if all of us can practice love, can practice caring for others, truly caring for others, but also understand others. You cannot love others if you cannot understand. And when you do not understand, you fear. We as humans fear what we don't understand. And what we fear, we destroy. So if we want to end war, we have to learn to understand each other, live together, and love each other, and see each other as family, as brothers and sisters. And eventually, we can end war. Thank you so much for your beautiful question.
How did life start?
The question is how life starts.
So, dear Thai, dear Sangha, I wonder, life here is human life or life in general? So I like to ask the little boy, what do you mean by life, according to your question?
I mean, like, how did the plants and how did they first come alive and start making things move, and how did the first seed be made? Like, that's my question.
I think our little friend is very intelligent. He says about the plant, and then after that, he refers to seed, and we also seed. Before we was born, we also present in our mother and father's body. But I think the question is about life in general, and according to what we receive from our teacher, Thai, and all of the lessons that we learn, life does not have the beginning or an end. So when we ask questions like whether the eggs come first or the chicken comes first, so there will be no answer whether the chicken or the eggs from the chicken. So comes first. And according to what we learn from Buddhist traditions, we don't have the beginnings. So we don't have the we learn about the Big Bangs, for example, but the Big Bangs is not the teaching from the Buddha. So the Big Bangs means that there's the beginning, and whatever the beginnings, the universe comes to being. And now our boys, the boys has question whether life starts from the beginning, and then what we learned is life comes in the circle. This come into being because of that come into being. This is because that is. Because your parents are there. Because the parents of your parents was there, so your parents are present. And because your parents are there, you are there. And if we straight from the very beginning where our grandparents and great-grandparents came from, we cannot find the first cause of where our great-great-great-grandparents came from. And before our humans, species presence on earth, our ancestors is also come from plants, from animals, from the minerals. And before that, there's many other causes that make life, human life, and other forms of life available. So the question is whether how life starts. It is because other conditions come into being, so lives come into being. So I hope that it's not very theoretical for you to understand. So I hope that I know that you understand. Is that okay with this question? Thank you.
What means life to a nun or a monk? What means life to a nun or a monk?
The question is, what means life to a monk or a nun? Can you specify a little bit more of your question?
Your whole life, what you were doing, and where you live for. What you live for.
So I will answer for myself. I don't know about my brothers and sisters, but for me is to make people happy. But it's difficult to make people happy if I'm not happy myself. So it's to understand myself, and so in this way I can understand the other people around me, and try to relieve suffering in myself and in people around me and people at large. So, and when I see, people around me happier, it makes me happy. It gives me joy. If I see someone with a lot of joy, and it gives me joy, and I look at my action. Do I have an action in my body or my way of speaking or in my thought, which I can see makes people around me suffer? Then I will try to understand what happened and change my action. So, but it's to make my life meaningful, and I know when it's the end of my life, I will know that, okay, I live my life fully and with a lot of joy and happiness and things like that. I hope it answers your question. Yes? Thank you. Thank you for your beautiful question. So we take one more question from the children. One more. So you have to decide which one. But I think the children, I think that you have a... Okay.
Because exists injustice.
Can you repeat?
Because exists injustice. Why exists injustice?
Dear Thai, dear Sangha, so I think the question is, why does injustice exist? And I don't know, is part of the answer. It's a very difficult question. So I'm not going to try to answer the question, but maybe we can investigate together to try to understand, to try to find out why does injustice exist. So when we have a big question like that, the first place to look is in our own experience. Because if we could go and look it up in a book or ask Google or something like that, but I'm not sure the answer is very reliable, so we try to look at our own experience first. So maybe there's times in our lives when we've felt injustice. Something's happened, it didn't feel fair. It made us sad or angry. But then maybe there's other times when we did something that made somebody else sad or angry, and they felt that's not fair. So I think actually that's the best place to look, because that's the closest that we can get to the root of injustice, is what made us do something that hurt somebody else or made them feel that it wasn't fair or that they were angry or sad. So we have to look, and we have to be honest. It's difficult, because sometimes when the other person says it's not fair, we say yes it is. You're wrong, I'm right. And there's already a kind of like a fight. So maybe in that kind of situation, when we do something that makes somebody else sad or angry, or when something happens and we become sad or angry, we need to have a way to deal with the situation that can help. So one of the things that we like to do here is when something like that happens and we don't feel so good, we stop what we're doing. We stop talking, we stop doing whatever we're doing, and we just try to take a little break. Take a breath or two. And that gives us a bit more clarity. And when we have a bit more clarity, we can find out what went wrong. We can find why does injustice exist in that moment. So I think that's the best I can do for now, is just to give you a method, a way, something that you can actually do when you don't feel good, or when something happens and somebody else doesn't feel good. We can stop everything and breathe in and out and try to find out in that moment why does injustice exist, and maybe go more in the direction of justice, of understanding. Thank you for your question.
How can we relieve stress or deal with it better?
The question is how to relieve stress and deal with it. So I'm asking my brother and sister, do you feel stressed sometime here in Plum Village? So dear Thai, dear Sangha, and dear friend, yes, I will speak for myself. I don't know, maybe my brother and sister never feel stress, but yes, sometimes I do feel stress, and fortunately here we have the practice, and we have people around us who practice, so it's helped us to come back to ourselves. We have the bell, so we stop and we can, I breathe and I just slow down. I stop myself from going. So, and it's a practice that you can bring back home, and it's a question of training. It's just to train, to see, I have stress. I'm going too fast, and sometimes I can see myself. I have many things to do, and I feel my steps. I'm going very fast. I'm already over there, but my body is here. So I see and I stop, and I start again walking, and we can do that. And when you cross the street, you can wait for the red light, the green light for the person. When you cross the street, just come back to the breathing. When we wait online, very often we wait. In our life, we wait for something, but we can use this time to come back to our breath, and then we train to. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And we can just relax, and it's important to learn to do that, because the stress will make our body unease, and our body will get sick. And you're young, but as you get older, if we keep the stress building up, then our body will get very tense, and more sickness may come. Some sickness may come, and so it's important to learn from you're young, but even older. It's very important to know how to let go of the stress. And here, I'm sure everyone here, you did total relaxation. And here we offer it for maybe 30, 45 minutes, but you can do it in a couple minutes. You can be on your chair, or you're in the plane, in the train, in the car, in the bus, and you can just close your eyes and just scan your body and breathing and letting go. And this will make a big difference for your body and for the mind as well. So it's everything you learn here is how to train to bring it back home, and to do it regularly. Maybe you choose one thing, like in the morning, maybe you step and you make your step very slow, maybe for 3, 4, 10 steps. Or every day you brush your teeth very slowly, or maybe you use your other hand. Maybe if you're right-handed, so you use your left hand. You will make it will be a bit more difficult, but you will do it slowly, and like that too. But in our society, the stress is very quite important, because we do many things at the same time. We try to do multitasking, and it's important to try to do only one thing at a time. Thank you so much for your question. Thank you. And thank you. Maybe I don't know if you felt stress when you come here. Yeah, you did, yeah. But sometimes for ourselves too, we feel a bit of stress, but we breathe, and it's okay. It's okay. Exactly. Thank you so much.
Dear Thai, dear Sangha, we have a really nice question here. I don't know where it came from, but the question is, I understand with my mind the idea of interbeing, Buddha, God, ... But I can't feel it in my heart. How can I do that? So I understand the idea of interbeing, Buddha, God, but I can't feel it in my heart. How can I do that? So first of all, I think what I would say is, are you sure? Are you sure that you understand the idea of interbeing? It's a big one. Buddha, God. I'm not sure I do. But it's interesting that in the question you distinguish between the idea of it and the feeling of it. So first of all, I would say, are you sure you really understand the idea? But I would also say, are you sure that you can't feel it? Often in Buddhist practice, we're invited to stop our thinking. And usually the first reaction is to say, I can't do that. I can't stop my thinking. It's much too difficult. And so we kind of, we already have a struggle with that. We sit in meditation and we try very hard and we try to stop thinking, and our thinking just gets more and more crazy. And I remember one day when Thai offered us a way out of that situation, and I found it immediately helpful. He said, if you want to stop your thinking, just feel. It's very simple. When we pay attention to the feeling of our feet on the ground, or the feeling of the air coming in, the air going out, the feeling, we bring our attention to the feeling in the body, in the present moment, then naturally the thinking stops. Even if just for a moment. Of course we have to learn to develop concentration so that we can prolong that moment of no thinking. But I'm sure that we can all feel it right away. It's very simple. If we all just bring our attention to the feeling of our contact with the ground, in that moment, when our attention is really there, I don't think there's much thinking. So, if we want to feel interbeing, if we want to feel God or feel in touch with the Buddha, I think it's quite similar. We have to quiet down our thinking, maybe stop it altogether, because I don't think it's actually possible to touch interbeing at the level of thinking, or God, or Buddha, because they're not really concepts, they're not really ideas. And if we're not careful, we can get really stuck in the idea and thinking about it, and it's kind of there's something very attractive about the idea of interbeing, and we can think about it a lot. But we want to touch it directly. So a very simple way is in eating meditation. And actually there's we can take a kind of gradual approach. So thinking is also not the enemy. We can use our thinking to lead us gradually to the experience, the direct experience of interbeing. So when we take a piece of carrot, we recognize this is a carrot. We put it in our mouths and we are aware that this carrot is a gift of the whole cosmos. In the carrot there's the sunshine, the rain, the farmer, the earth, the sky. And there's a little bit of thinking in that. But then we want to go straight to the direct experience of carrot. And be fully present with it. And then I think maybe you can already feel it. Maybe you can already feel interbeing. It's not far away, it's right there. So it's just an invitation to try feeling, not thinking. And trust maybe that you already touched the experience of interbeing. You can already feel it. So to doubt a little bit the voice that says, I can't feel it. I can't get in touch with it. And to say, okay, yeah, that's fine. I'm just going to eat my carrot. Thank you.
Hello, brothers and sisters. I just wanted to ask you, as far as you guys know, what happens to the soul when the physical body passes away?
Dear respected Thai, dear friends, so the question is, what will happen to our soul when our physical body is no longer here? It's a very interesting question. But we can look at it in this way. While we're alive, what happened to our soul? There are a million people out there. But when we live, there's a certain people we're in contact with. There's a certain things that say that ripples. So when we live, our essence, our soul, interbeing with those that surround us. Part of us already slowly go into those that we're in contact with. And what we are, who we are, is remembered by those that are close to us. So in that sense, the way I look at it, that is our soul. That's who we are when we're alive. When we're here, when we're still present, the conditions are still here for us. And our being affects others. And when the conditions are not here sufficient for this body to stay, we're no longer able to affect others, but what we already affect is still there. So when we live wholesome, when we love, we care, that's what we transmit to those around us, to our children, to everywhere in this universe. So for me, that is my soul, and that's where it will be. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Hello, brothers and sisters. I want to ask if you try your best to help a drug addict with all what you have. You know he's suffering. but he abuses your kindness and manipulates you and keeps harming you, should you challenge yourself to keep helping him, or should you protect yourself? If you want to protect yourself, how could you still practice compassion? Thank you.
Dear Thai, dear Sangha, if I were you, I would understand my capacity and I need to understand the person that I like to help. Because the body and mind and the psychological orientation of the drugs addicts is very different from us. So we cannot we cannot underestimate what happens in that body and mind of the person in order to come into that person to help him or her. So I need to understand the situation very thoroughly before I take action. We know that there's many things can happen. If the person's reaction can harm us or can deprive us of our energy, so I would study the person quite closely and understand him deeply before I can do something. And of course, when we design the distance between ourselves and the person, is also the act of compassion. If we know that, if we think that if we get close to that person, and then we mentally or physically help him or comfort him, and that is the form of compassion, and that is very limited. And sometimes we have many forms of helping a person and also shows our compassion. So I would ask myself whether I have the capacity to effectively help that person to get out of his situation, to lessen his addictive behavior, or to trying to introduce some of the ethical sharings to applying to his situation. So I think the energy itself is already very helpful. Our intention is already very helpful, and I think the person is sensitive enough to receive our intention and our loving energy. Sometimes we just need to look at the person, or sometimes we just have our own presence without saying anything, holding hand with the person, or doing nothing. But we already of a great help to the situation, to his problems. And helping takes many forms. So you find a way that the person will be acceptive to our intention of helping. And if I don't have enough capacity, and for some reasons I drain my energy of trying to help that person, I will notice what is happening inside of me before I try to continue, or I have the intention to continue. Because the inside, we need to help with the spirit of inside out. We need to go inside ourselves, and if we have enough positive and loving energy, before we transmit that energy to the other person, Otherwise, if we are stressed, we have a lot of worries and anxieties, and we are not aware, we will bring that energy to give to that person. And that energy is sometimes invisible, sometimes it's very obvious that the person can receive, and sometimes it's invisible. And the effects of the impacts of our actions will be received by the person. So the main thing is maybe we need to take care of ourselves first, and we know if we have the capacity to do something effectively, and we study that first before we can continue to help the person. And maybe the person have different preferences. If you understand him or her, you will know what will be the effective way to approach. If that person is quite dynamic and very violent, so we need to have something soothing, something very tranquil or very silent in order to counteract with this kind of dynamic energy. But if that person is loose in his consumption, or depressions, or any form of sadness or anxiety, we need to also to have a different approach of maybe take him to a walk in nature, or doing something physical to take that person to do something different from what that person intended to do at exactly the same moment. So we don't have the answer for the same for every problem, but we understand ourselves, and when we understand the other person, in order to find the appropriate or the suitable actions to have the effect of what we are trying to do. And we also need to remember to reserve our energy, because by intelligently knowing ourselves, although we don't have to do anything much, but the effects will be very great. So I hope that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, brothers and sisters. Thank you for receiving my question. It's difficult to pick one. Why is suicide considered a sin if the concepts of rebirth or heaven and hell exists? Shouldn't be this person get all the compassion and love that there is, instead of being punished for its action?
For us, in our tradition, is we don't think suicide as a sin.
So maybe I choose other words. What does Buddhism and Thai think of the option of suicide?
A person commits suicide because a person sees that she has no other option. It's no other way in her life, so that's the only thing. It's very difficult for us to, when someone commits suicide, to understand truly what happened. And for us, so it's very difficult, and we have this question, why? So I don't know if you're asking this question because someone close to you committed suicide, or?
I work in the mental hospital, and we often treat patients after a suicide attempt. And I read a lot about it, and most of the views are very negative. But I feel that these people need a lot of compassion. And I don't understand why people treat this topic in such a negative and condemned way.
So for us is we try to understand which condition which cause the person to want to commit suicide and doesn't see no other issue. So if you work with people who attempt suicide but they fail, and so they are still alive, is to really look, try to understand what happened to them in their life, which condition pushed them, and how to make them touch life, the wonder of life, little thing, so they want to live again. It's in the way of the sense impression yesterday, the day before in the Dharma talk. It's all the different, the way we consume, through our mouth, our senses, through our consciousness, our volition. So it's to try to understand the person and to help. So you offer them a different way to touch life. So will be, for example, will be to go for a walk in the garden, with them in the garden, and breathe with them, and ourselves feel peace and feel that it's okay that they don't want to live anymore, and not to make them feel that they are judged and they did something wrong and bad, but more to work on the compassion. For us, is we don't consider that it's a bad thing. It's more to see that the person doesn't see no more issue and is stuck into an idea that there is no other way, and is to show there is some other way. We can understand our emotions, our feelings, and understand why, and is to, one important thing will be to listen to them. Just listen. What happened? What makes you want to commit suicide? But it's because they don't see no other way, a way out. And for us, our teacher says the way out is in. And so is to help them understand what happened inside, why I don't want to live. But it makes them touch the beauty of life, and to go in the nature, to touch a tree, look at a flower, come back to the breath. Very simple things. So they can get in contact with life, but not to feel judged and that they did something wrong. No, the compassion is important, and for ourselves is to understand too other people who don't feel this way, because it hurts when someone wants to end their life. It hurts. So it's not to judge our colleague or other people around who feel, oh, this is a wrong action, but to understand them as well. It's difficult to why a person wants to end their life. It's difficult to understand. But unfortunately, many young people commit suicide, even young child nowadays, and it's quite, and many adults, and it's very painful. And I guess with your question is, I feel that you want to help and do something, and to help people who want to end their life. And it's for you. You come here and you practice, and you bring this practice into your daily life, and this will help many people, because people will feel at ease next to you, will feel your peace, will feel that you're happy and you don't judge them in their decision, whatever, and they will trust you. And so this is wonderful. Thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When we hear in the news that many people are suffering from a natural catastrophe, what can we do to support the people?
Dear respected Thai, dear friends, the question is, when there are people who are suffering from natural disaster or catastrophe, what can we do to help? At the beginning, whenever I hear such a news, my first reaction was, is there a way I can come over there and do something physically to help? That's usually my first reaction. But in reality, I'm unable to. So I sit there and feel that maybe I cannot do anything. I'm unable to help them. But it's not true. There's many, many things we can do to help. The first thing that we need to do is to be at peace, to calm down. Because in our world, there's many energies that's being generated. And when there's war, there's disaster, when there's suffering, a lot of energies of despair, sadness, fear arise in those regions. And if we ourselves also contribute into it, fear, worries, it's not going to help. It's not going to help ourselves. So the first thing that you have to do is to come back to yourself. Come back and recognize what is in your feeling. You have to be able to come back and have peace within yourself first. Then when you are able to calm down, have peace, you generate that energy and send it to them. Because that is a way to offset, to balance out between the energies that's being generated all over the earth. And to care. But also you can also to reflect slowly, what else can you help? Of course, there's also financial help if you're able to. And of course, if you're able to come to the physical help, that's also there. But then there's other things we can do to help. Because a lot of things that happen in our planet is because of the way we live. When we look at our planet, all the species that live on the planet, we human beings are the ones that destroy the planet the most. We take everything for ourselves. Not like other species, they only take things that they need. But for us, we grow and grow. So one way to help is to live better. This is part of the interbeing. Live your life so that you can help to protect the planet, not to destroy it. To live in harmonies with others, species, plants, animals, everything. That is helping just by the way you live. It's not an immediate help to the immediate disaster that happened, but in the long run, in the overall picture, is one way to contribute yourself. It's just simply to be able to live and to care and to protect the planet. So in many ways, you can live and generate that energy to help others to live the right way. So that's part of the answer. I hope that helped.
We'll take a written question. We'll have a written question before, and then after you can ask your question.
Dear respected Thai, dear community, we have a written question. In Plum village, it's easy to transform unpleasant feelings because of the monastics and the Sangha and the energy here. Back home, even when aware of my breath, eyes, ears, and that I'm alive, sometimes loneliness gets bigger and too painful to welcome and look at. So I eat to fill the loneliness in me. What do you suggest when loneliness arises and when we're alone? Thank you. So thank you for the question. It's a very real question. And I think many of us have been in that situation, whether it's loneliness or despair or sadness. The feeling comes up and it seems too big for us to embrace. It feels like it's going to overwhelm. So I think the first part of the answer is don't stay alone. Find the Sangha. Because you don't have to be in Plum Village to be with the Sangha. There's lots of ways to get in touch with the Sangha wherever you are. And we have to be a little bit creative in that as well, to identify members of our Sangha that may already be there. Sometimes it's something very simple, like maybe like a plant. Maybe we have a potted plant where we live. And sometimes when we don't feel well, to take care of another living being, it feels like, somebody should take care of us, but actually when we take care of somebody else or something else, it can already help to make us feel better. So we turn our attention to the members of our Sangha around us and offer them our love and our care and our attentiveness. And that can already change the situation a little bit. It invites the energy of mindfulness, of caring to grow. There may also be a real Sangha nearby, and we can ask for help. We have online Sanghas as well. There's something called Plum line, I think. Is that right? And there are many people who connect with that Sangha every day. They have sitting meditation at different times of the day. And you can go online and you connect, and your Sangha is right there with you. And maybe you can share with them that you're struggling to embrace a very painful emotion. And just by sharing like that, you already receive the support and the embrace of your friends. So that's in the best possible case. Sangha is available. So then we look at the second case where you tried all that, still on your own, still difficult. What do you do then? So I think our practice is clear that when we are in touch with painful feelings, the first thing we need to do is to invite the energy of mindfulness to come up. So mindfulness is there. We need to have confidence in that, to have faith. We have the energy of mindfulness within us in the form of a seed. And actually it's enough just to touch it, just to remember. To remember. Ah, I have the energy of mindfulness in me. I go and touch it and it will come up. Maybe not so strong yet, but it can get stronger with training. So that's the first thing. Remember that mindfulness is there. And sometimes when the negative feeling is very strong, we want to deal with it right away. But the advice of our teacher and of the Buddha is first of all to nourish a positive feeling, to be able to generate a feeling of happiness, a feeling of joy. So we need to learn how to do that. And being here in Plum Village is a good opportunity to do that. Maybe it's a little bit easier while we're here during the retreat. But we can really focus on that, because it helps to give us the stability, the strength we need to be able to embrace the painful feeling. So how to generate a feeling of joy at any moment? Thai would often say that a good practitioner can generate a feeling of joy at any moment. And I remember when I first heard that, I thought, no, you can't. That's impossible. What are you talking about? Or I felt bad because that means I'm not a good practitioner because I can't do that. So we have to, if we want to be a good practitioner, we have to find out, what does that really mean? And how do we do it? So I think the first thing is always to come back to our breathing and to relax. Because any kind of stress or tension in the body also contributes to whatever painful feelings are there. So we need to learn how to relax. And we need to do it often. So it's very good to learn how to do a body scan, how to relax the whole body, and then to do it many, many, many times during the day. Whenever we have a moment when we have to sit there on the bus or on the train or waiting for something, we can practice and relax every muscle in our body, especially the face, the jaw, the eyes. We often hold a lot of tension there. So we breathe, we're aware of our breath, and we bring our kind and gentle attention to the tension and release it. And Sakho Chanduk on the first, during the first Dharma talk, she taught us how to smile, or how to enjoy smiling. And sometimes we don't feel good, we don't feel like smiling. It's kind of the last thing we want to do. But it's very interesting to notice that if we can smile even just a little bit, and we bring our attention to the physical sensation of smiling, we may notice there's a little pleasant sensation associated. There's a little bit more relaxation, a little bit more ease. And then we're already a good practitioner. Oh, I generated a feeling of joy. Wow, so easy. And from there we can remember and get in touch with the wonders of life. They are available, always. And sometimes our suffering, it seems so big and it's so painful that it kind of occupies the whole space and we forget. So we have to train as well to remember that we live in a wonderful, amazing present moment. We live in a cosmos filled with stars. Even though maybe we can't see the stars right now, they're there. In every direction, down through the planet and in all directions. Giant, burning fireballs of gas. Incredible. Space, billions of kilometers in every direction. So we need to learn how to touch the wonders of life. If we, it can be as simple as taking a drink of water. To create a feeling of joy when we take a cup of water, or tea, or coffee, or juice. Just take a moment to treasure what is there in front of us. And Thai taught us to see the cloud in our tea. And for me, I'm sometimes a bit of a kind of science geek, so I wondered, how much cloud does it take to make one cup of tea? Because I want to cultivate that practice. I want to really be able to touch that joy every day, touch the wonder. So I looked it up. And 1 cubic meter of cloud creates approximately 0.5 of a milliliter of water. Right? So, I don't know, how much is in a cup? Maybe 100 milliliters? About 100 milliliters? So that's 200 cubic meters of cloud. Wow, it's like you have to visualize. You take the whole cloud and you squeeze it into the cup and a few little drops come out. So how big is 200 cubic meters? Well, it's, I don't know, this hole is 10 meters on one side. Maybe we look, half the hole is about 20 meters. 1 cubic meter, 1 meter high. Imagine that whole big cloud and we squeeze it into the cup and drink. Wow. That is a feeling of joy. So, please forgive the digression. But really we have to train. We have to know how to embrace the painful feelings, but we also mustn't forget to nourish and to cultivate the joyful feelings. So it's only part of an answer, but thank you for your practice, and hope we can continue to explore together.
It's already 11:05, but I see that there is two young person here, so maybe we take the two last question. I know, yeah, it's difficult because people have been waiting. We can hear the sound of the bell. Will be the two last question.
Dear Thai, dear family, Thai actually answered my question with the previous answer, so I'll give my space to the next person.
There's actually one thing I wanted just to add, very brief, one sentence. I think when we have a painful feeling, we need to look for the antidote. So for loneliness, for me the antidote is connectedness, which is also why contemplating interbeing or seeing the cloud in our teacup can help, because we can see that we're not separate, we're not cut off, we are part of the whole. Thank you.
Dear brothers, dear sisters, thank you very much for this moment. I would like to ask my question in French. Is it possible?
I can translate.
Je voudrais savoir, au village des Pruniers, il y a une ambiance qui fait qu'on se sent bien ici, on se sent chez soi.
In Plum Village, there's an atmosphere that means that we feel well, we feel good here, we feel at home.
On se sent en sécurité chez soi et on est vraiment ravis de revenir.
We feel safe every time and we're always happy to come back.
Ici, on apprend à être heureux avec très peu de choses.
Here we learn how to be happy with very little.
On apprend à positiver, à profiter de l'instant présent.
We learn to look in a positive way and to profit from the present moment.
Et ma question est, comment continuer à faire tout cela en dehors, quand on retourne chez nous, dans la vie de tous les jours, quotidiennement?
And so my question is, how do we continue to do that when we go home into our daily life?
Dear Thai, dear friend, dear young friend, thank you for your question. I think it's a very important question because a lot of you are going to go back home on Friday, and how to do to continue the practice. I think my brother to the other question answered to have a sangha or a community of practice. It's very important. So you're young, and there is what we call the wake up movement, the wake up group of young people. So it's to come together to try to find some friends who have the same aspiration that we do, and to see them regularly and do some practice, joyful practice together. So it's important, otherwise we will feel lonely, and it's like we try to go in a direction, but the society or other people pull us in another direction. And the training, to train ourselves. Okay, I really wish to go. So here in Plum Village, we experience, we test, we sever something different, a different way of living. Very simple. It's a different way. And this is to make this experience grow within us. And so we tested it, and so we know that it's possible. So it's possible to feel happier with very simple things. It's possible. I tested it, and I liked it, so I can do it. So at the beginning, maybe it requires a little effort to train. It's like if we want to play piano or guitar or tennis, we train. Like we spoke about soccer before, they train to play well. We train. So it's the same with mindfulness. We train. So we take one practice that we did here that we enjoy very much, and we try to do it at home. So very simple to maybe when I wash my hands, I do it, I feel my hands, I feel the water on my hands. I take a moment to see where the water comes from. So, and I can feel a feeling of gratitude to have hot and cold water right there for me. I can see how, the work of all the ancestors who brought this water, and it's very easy now for us to take a shower. So we can make this feeling of gratitude grow throughout. We sit in the bus, we open the door, we try to be aware to see how it's wonderful. Our body is a wonder, and then the practice will become in us, and then after it will not be an effort anymore. It will be a joy, and it's to make the practice joyful. So you like it. You like to do it, and not because you have to do it. But here, if you're here in Plum Village, in your question, you seem that you like it, and it's possible to do it outside, but it's necessary to have friends around you. And we have many, many young people who meet everywhere in the world, and now with the technology, you can be in contact with them, and so you can share your difficulty, and then or your joy, and so like that you nourish yourself. It's really how do I nourish myself, and to see which book do I read, which movie I watch, to be aware of what the intake and what it does on your mind. You see, and you probably heard about the 5 mindfulness trainings. Did you had a presentation? Yeah. So, and this is something to contemplate and to really. You have everything in the 5 mindfulness training. So they will guide you, and they will protect you and be your friend right there. So when you feel, I cannot do it, just connect with the whole community. The community is within you. When you go back home, you're not alone. All the friends you made here, everyone is there. And the 5 mindfulness training, they are really a guide and a support for you. So, and come back here. You can come and spend some time here too. So it will be the foundation will be stronger for you to root. Thank you so much for your question. So I don't know. I know that was one person who really wanted to ask a question. I don't know if she wants, but I don't know. Otherwise, we have to finish here. We need to finish. Okay, so because we need to finish here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we need to conclude our session this morning. I know it's a bit painful. Now we have to stop here because today we're going to walk to Shanghai and have picnic there. So we need some time so you can enjoy going there. So and some more written question. I think it's our brother who will give the talk tomorrow. He will answer some of the written questions. So if your question is very important, you can write it down, pass it to us, and tomorrow morning our brother, before his talk, maybe he will answer some of your written questions. So thank you so much for being here, for your presence, for the wonderful questions, and to my sister and brother for the answer. So we will listen to 3 sounds of the bell, and then it will be some announcement. Thank you.